Fossils that defy any scientific explanation. The scariest event that ever happened in this world is what began our timeline. It was a reset, but it was one that went all the way to the depths of the ocean. You are looking at actual specimens of fossilized jellyfish. Petrified non-vertebrates. It doesn't make sense, not by the uniformitarian view, the natural selection, evolutionary theory. Nothing can account for this anomaly. The scientific world is basically silent on any descriptions, and most of the descriptions that were given by them are ludicrous. And I'll give you a couple in here that were specifically attached to justify why things were found in later fossils. But right here, these are squids, shrimp. Oh, that's a squid. We have jellyfish type creatures. It totally defies explanation. And one of the most curious finds is this hypocrisy in the scientific community. The creation of a fossil of worm sperm. That's what you're seeing. Seminal discharge from a worm, fossilized. Microbiologists looking at it, analyzing it, knowing for a fact that it is the sperm coming from a worm-like creature. How did that get turned to stone? And the soft membranes of moth wings, flies. This isn't anything that can be scientifically explained by the parameters that we're given today, the uniformitarian model of history. It just can't explain these things. Dragonflies and dragonfly wing membranes found perfectly petrified, rendered into stone. How is this possible? When evolution was first foisted upon us in our textbooks, the idea of the creation of a fossil petrification process was it was closed book. They described exactly how, and only vertebrates, only creatures with bones could turn to stone. But the mystery deepens. Not only are the exoskeletons and soft tissue and membranes of insects have been found, sea creatures, marine creatures, but even arachnids. Here are spiders found perfectly preserved in the fossil record. Of course, another dragonfly. This all begs the question, what really happened in the ancient world to preserve all this life? And here are fish in the middle of eating other fish when they were frozen in stone. What the hell happened? The petrification process is supposed to take a very long period of time. Compression, the laying down of sediments, water, dehydration, mineralization of tissue being replaced with silicates. But that's not what we're seeing here. We're seeing a world flash frozen. Look at these animals in the middle of combat. Look here, a velociraptor and its prey were fossilized as they were fighting. And right here is even a bigger mystery. A fossilized squid wrapped around its prey, and scientists admitted to squid, found petrified, and then go off to try to theorize and tell us that the two dead carcasses drifted to the bottom of the ocean were buried in sediments. But the bottom of the oceans were already covered in oysters and clams and mollusks and all kinds of shelled creatures that when they die, the tissue relaxes, their muscles relax, and the shells open. But that's not what we find. Here is an addition to the mystery. Whole clam and mollusk beds found with the shells closed, meaning they did not die a natural death. They were flash frozen while they were still alive, shells closed. From the depths of the ocean throughout the rest of the world, it is the same. Fossils have been found, with some of them with tissue still intact, also petrified, orbital sockets and eyes and membrane and cilia, antenna, membranes from wings, internal organs still visible. It is amazing. Here is an egg with a baby, whatever, creature, dinosaur, whatever, a trilobite. Over and over we find evidence that The fossilization process is untrue as it's been conveyed to us. Look, an eye is still preserved. It turned into a gemstone. It's amazing. The entire world was flash frozen. But this isn't the story that we're told. And we're told that these creatures all lived at different time periods and different geological ages, and some of them were hundreds of millions of years apart, and every bit of that is bullshit. It's not true. Every one of these fossils is the result from a single event when the world died. The evidence of this flash freezing is not just found in the seas, the shallow seas, and in the depths of the ancient prehistoric oceans, but we find this evidence all over the surface as well. It's just not as readily available because we've been on the surface. These are polystrate fossils. These are trees that are extending vertically all the way up through several layers of geological antiquity. Let the evolutionists tell you, this one tree goes through 600 million layers of strata of rock, which is absolute BS. Polystrate fossils completely defy the whole geologic table. These creatures on the surface and in the ocean show that whatever happened to one happened also to the other. The entire world suffered a reset. It is my personal theory, based off all my research. It is an educated guess that I stand behind. But I believe that the reset that ended this world was what began our present timeline. I do not believe it was hundreds of thousands or millions of years ago, but very recent. There are no signs of development between these species. Look at these fossils closely. From the beginning of this video, you see shrimp as they exist today. You see crabs as they exist today. Dragonflies. Why haven't new species developed into and evolved as we are told they're supposed to do? Why aren't trees talking? If these creatures truly lived hundreds of millions of years ago, then they should have adapted into new species that would have their own communication abilities, that would have formed the necessary digits to do utilitarian things like the human body with its its thumb, which is very different than the rest of the mammalian family. We are able to do a lot more. We're able to use technologies and develop things to make clothes, protect ourselves from the environment. Why is there not a species of dragonfly type humans? How come ants, which are undeveloped from millions of years ago to today, have not taken over the world? How come they don't have their own armies and their own telecommunications services? Why haven't reptiles taken over the entire world and turned into some draconic species that is vying with us for farmlands or harvesting the ocean for marines, having their own air forces the whole notion gets more and more ridiculous the more we entertain the explanations the scientific world has given us. They're absolutely, completely fiction. These events were not a long time ago, and there has been no evidence whatsoever of any evolutionary development between life forms. What you're seeing in this fossil record of those species that still survive still look identical to the species that are living today. You've seen the spiders, you've seen the jellyfish, you've seen the bees, all these fossils. Now this right here is a trilobite. They don't exist anymore that we know. But all these fish, most of these fish still exist. The coelacanth is a marine index fossil that was used to date 65 million year old fossils. It too was found recently. 5 of them have now been found. The first one by a Japanese trawler. It's famous. Many books have published the coelacanth. But it's not the only index fossil that has been found living in our oceans today. So this video is basically a presentation of showing you just the visual evidence that what we're told about natural selection, about the geologic ages of the world, is bullshit. When you read about things being found and they are plus or minus 200,000 years old because they're giving them an 800 million year old Precambrian date or a 65 million year old Jurassic, or they try to throw in the Devonian era or epic. This is all BS. Our world is not what you think. And scientists are never going to tell you the truth about it because 99.9% of them have paid a lot of money to be educated into a false paradigm. And they continue to espouse that false paradigm because it's all they know. Most scientists are not truly thinkers. They can't be. Anybody who is going to admit that it is their belief that they are the direct descendants of a monkey is not anybody you can take seriously. And here's a hammer, fossilized, embedded in solid rock, petrified. Perhaps it's a relic existing from a time when cockroaches had overrun the earth in mining camps before they were exterminated. Or maybe I'm full of shit.